and thank you very much for sticking around. This is Smart Means Business, our topic of discussion. I'm still with my guest, Crispus Mobile Muke, who is Communications and Marketing, the Uganda Cooperative Alliance. Well, last week, if I'm not mistaken, there was a 54th annual general meeting for the members of the Uganda Cooperatives Alliance, and one of the key resolutions of this was that there is a plan to revive the cooperative bank in the country. I don't know how fast you came to this. I wish to understand why.
Now, this debate has been on over and over. We have discussed with government on the re-establishment of the cooperative bank, but government seems to have taken long already. But of course, we appreciate the government for its move, and it is good that in 2018 the cabinet gave the cooperative bank a green light. This is very good for the cooperative ideology in the country and the cooperative movement. It is very good for this country, because now, since the government has already given a green light, but I think it has been delayed by quite a number of other issues that it is focused on. It's upon that we, the cooperators, the cooperative movement in Uganda, decided that it would be better for us to start the cooperative bank. Government will find us on the way.
Okay.
One of the reasons why we should be on the move is that first of all, we cannot be in control of other things government is handling. That we agree, we acknowledge. Government has informed us lately that it has done benchmark visits to countries where the cooperative bank has been a success. We really applaud that. But I think it would be better for cooperators to start their own bank, so that government can find them on the way and maybe add some few things that might have in mind. Of course, those that are not limited to policy. Of course, government needs to come in and help in the issues of policy, because it cannot be established on the same grounds like a commercial bank. This is completely a different model of bank. So government would look at it differently. That's why we need government. But also, it is good that the cooperators. Now, who are the cooperators? The cooperators are the members of the cooperative unions, the members of the cooperative societies. Those are the cooperators. The cooperators themselves accepted that they are willing to give in their own money, 5 million each society as startup capital. And by the way, the cooperative movement we are talking about has almost or more than 14 million people in Uganda alone. Okay. So if we can have 14 million people and each society contributing 5 million, this would be good startup capital for the bank. And it would save cooperators a lot, and they would cease to go to banks to get money. Remember, these cooperators use banking institutions not just to transact their money, but also to save their money. You know, the beauty about the cooperative ideology is, after aggregation and sale of the produce, if maybe we can look at the agricultural-based cooperative, after aggregation and sale, later on they sit together and share the dividends with the owners or with the shareholders or with the cooperators, with the members of that union. So sharing of dividends is something unique to the cooperative movement, other than other businesses. At the end, I've made my profit, go home, build my commercials, build my business empire. That is how it is, the other ideology. But when it comes this side, you're able to come together as a society, as a union.
Okay.
And then you agree on the share. So you're going to share the profit that you've made, which are the dividends that I'm referring to. You're able to share, even when you've made the sales at certain prices, of course at international markets. Then you come sit back together, be like, this year we've made this and this money. So based on what we have done this and that. Do we reinvest the money? Remember I talked about cooperatives being member-used and democratic.
Okay.
And equal, by the way.
When you look at this, does this eliminate the cooperative unions now? Or is it giving it room for growth? Because if we mention cooperative bank, one may think now the Uganda Cooperative Alliance wants to have one cooperative union in the bank, whereby people will definitely come in, converge, going for the credit facilities and all that. Does this eliminate the other cooperative unions, either way, those that are coming up or those that are already established?
Absolutely not. Uganda Cooperative Alliance is the mother body to all registered cooperative unions in the country. It's literally just bringing them together. Okay. Establishing the cooperative bank would be more or less like establishing or extending financial services to the cooperative movement in the country. Okay. Because once there is an establishment of the cooperative bank, it would mean that the cooperators who are the members of the different unions, the Bugisu Cooperative Union, Madi Okolo, Nyakatonzi Cooperative Union, Banyankole Kweterana, Kigezi, Wamala growers, Masaka growers would now have a better mode of money or cash delivery to them, and would use the banking institution to transact their business and save their money. So it would be more or less like creating a basket where they can always get financial services at friendly terms. By the way, that's something that I don't wish to leave behind. Because the difference is that the other ideology is more friendly than the other side of the commercial, you know. And the biggest justification for the creation of this bank is looking at the model of delivery vis-a-vis the current status or the current situation of the banking institutions and how they work or how they've been working with the cooperatives. Okay. Yes, we have quite a number of banking institutions, of course, which have been working with the cooperative movement in trying to close the gap. We really applaud them because they've been there for the movement in the absence of its own bank. But I think yes, there is a lot of money in those banks that largely focuses on agriculture and other terms, but still they do not fill the gap of the lack of the cooperative bank because their lending rates are equally still high. The package services or the services rendered to the cooperators are still expensive because just like we stated at the beginning, I mentioned that we do not have any bank that offers loans at a rate less than 10% in the country. So if we could have the cooperative bank moving and offering the services to the cooperators, these are the members of the different unions, the members of different cooperatives, or the members of the different facilities. Now, if they would get friendly loans, this would make it very easy for them to grow. Okay. Very easy. And once, one of the biggest challenges that are lacking in which we want to close this time is lack of an extended, better financial service to the cooperatives. Oh. So if we would close the gap, the financial gap, we already have insurance, we are now lacking the financial arm, which will help in the extension of giving friendly services to the cooperatives. This would be a milestone in the movement in the 21st century. Okay. By the way, how did we get there? Now, getting to the re-establishment of the bank, or getting back to that call, was after a thorough study of how the cooperative bank has performed in the rest of the world. Okay. According to the most recent statistics by the International Cooperative Alliance and the United Nations, the businesses that are established under the cooperative ideology were not affected or were not hurt so much by the COVID-19 and the post-COVID-19 effects like other businesses, like other individual-owned businesses. Now, the reason for them not being hurt a lot is because when you look at them, they are member-owned, member-controlled. So really, they cannot be hurt a lot because when there's this challenge, there's the other one to close the gap as part of the challenges that they may be experiencing. So that is what we are lacking. And of course, looking at the cooperative banking, by the way, in Kenya, they have the cooperative bank. In Kenya, they have the cooperative university. In Tanzania, they also have Moshi University that handles the cooperative education. And the countries I'm talking about have some of the most performing or better performing banking institutions, not just in Africa, but also in the world. The cooperative banks are on record, they are performing very well. Now, back to Uganda. Here we don't have a cooperative bank.
Okay. We
are already having a challenge of cooperative education. We also have another challenge of the law. Yes, the law that regulates SACCOs. Unfortunately, it leaves out other SACCOs. It leaves out bigger unions like Walimu, like Walimu SACCOs, like Wazalendo unions, like Ukusku. It leaves them outside, which is too dangerous for them. It leaves them without a regulator.
Okay.
It leaves them outside the law. Now, the countries, Kenya and Tanzania, where they have the cooperative education, are performing extremely better than us in Uganda, where, of course, we have the cooperative colleges. We have 2 colleges in Uganda. We have one in Kigumba. We have another one in Tororo. Now, these 2 institutions, unfortunately, since 1975, at the time of their establishment to date, they are still offering diplomas.
Okay.
Now, in Tanzania, they are up to the level of PhD. In Kenya, they are up to the level of offering masters. But here in Uganda, we are still at diploma level. So the people who study up to diploma level, of course that's the highest in Uganda, are either supposed or either faced with 2 challenges. Either go to Mosh in Tanzania or go to Kenya.
To do the upgrading.
Yes, to upgrade to bachelors.
Okay.
Or if you cannot afford going to either of the 2, then you have no other alternative but to change from what you studied originally to studying what is available to be able to suit in society or to feed the market demand, which is very dangerous for the generation, because ideally we should have had cooperative officers at every district level, because if we have cooperative officers at district level, it makes it easy. Actually, this would be fuel to the PDM, the parish development model, because government would not look for political aligned parish officers, but rather they would look at the educated people, or what they are bringing on table, would look at their level of education and what they studied when it comes to the cooperative business. Because cooperatives are not like other companies. The unique part about cooperatives is that they are not companies that have an owner. Let's say Muke and Sons Limited as a company. This actually is a corporation. It's a group. It's owned by a group, used by a group, and everything surrounds around members of the societies. So, if we would have an extension of a cooperative officer at parish level, this would exacerbate the performance of the parish development model. So, I think it would be better for a government to rethink the cooperative education and maybe realign the cooperative education and ensuring that it is part of the curriculum, because how are we going to impress the model which we have less or no knowledge about?
Okay. Now, as we are summing up with our discussion, the issue to do with enhancing development and growth, majorly now in the agricultural sector, how will the bank that you're reviving, the bank that is getting back on course, help boost this particular sector, or on the other hand, as well, enhance development in the various sectors that you did mention?
Yes, thank you so much. Indeed, like I mentioned, these sectors have faced the biggest challenge of lack of financial extension or lack of friendly financial services.
Okay.
Now, bringing in a bank closes a very wide gap of lack of capital, of lack of a sustainable capital for them to be able to transact their businesses. Remember, like I said at the beginning, cooperatives are no longer the old cooperatives, which the youth actually used to think that they only belong to our parents, our grandparents, because largely they were agricultural based. But currently we have cooperatives in other businesses, like the housing cooperative, the electricity cooperatives, and the electricity cooperative, which is in Kegegwa, by the way,
okay,
and other forms of cooperatives, even the medical. So now, closing this gap that has been on for long will make it easy for the cooperators. What are the ones I've referred to as cooperators throughout the discussion are the members of the cooperative, of the different cooperative unions, and it would make it easy for them to have access to stable financial services. Now, once they have stable financial services, they would be able to secure, first of all, agro-processing facilities. Now, access to agro-processing facilities will make it very easy for them to aggregate or to add value to the agricultural produce. Yes, looking at the coffee, and maybe if I were joking about the recent thing of Pineti.
Yeah.
Yes, most of the cooperative unions would have reached at that level or even past that level, but due to lack of stable and standby capital, they have not had the money to afford or to buy agro-processing facilities that help in value addition. And by the way, after aggregation and after the sale of their produce, this money comes back to them as a society. It doesn't go to an individual. So it aims at developing a social economic society rather than an individual, an individual like it is in the other mode of business. So having this bank re-established is a blessing to our societies, to our members, to the unions, to the cooperative movement in Uganda. If you would meet the people who were there in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, when the bank was still functional, when several institutions, inclusive but not limited, of course, to the cooperative bank. Remember, we also have cooperative unions that deal in transport, basically in transport. Now, these help in transporting the goods of the cooperators. You see, when we have transport unions, when we have agricultural-based unions, so Bugisu Cooperative Union or BCU would not still look for vehicles to hire to be able to transport their coffee to Entebbe Airport for sale abroad the country. They would just go to another union, because one of the principles of the cooperatives, or one of the ideals, is that cooperatives are cooperators, and there is cooperation among the members. So Bugisu Cooperative Union should cooperate with another cooperative union, let's say Bushika Area Enterprise. They should cooperate. If the other ones are transport-based, then you can utilize their services. Get their vehicles, get the Uganda Transport Cooperative Union vehicles, use them for transporting the coffee. So once the entire chain is complete, you have a cooperative union that focuses on transport. You have an insurance company that is mitigating the shocks of the cooperative movement, you have the bank that aims at extending financial services. This actually finishes up or sums up the entire value chain and closes out the gaps that would be lacking to have an enable and a better moving cooperative movement in the country.
Okay, and speaking of the other sectors that you did mention, briefly, a breakdown of these ones, where the cooperative unions have now been transiting to, because you did mention earlier, we used to attach cooperative unions to only the agricultural sector. Yes, but when you look at other sectors, which other sectors besides water, electricity, housing is the cooperative drive moving to?
Yes, the cooperative drive currently looks at more than agriculture.
Okay.
It boasts of transport. We have Uganda Transport Cooperatives Union, UCTCU, the one which is chaired by Honorable John Musila.
Okay.
Yes, it is one of the biggest, and recently government gave them quite a number of trucks as part of the compensation for the loss of their trucks that they lost during the political turbulent periods in the country. And also government is yet to compensate other cooperative unions that lost their assets during the political turbulences in the country. Now, we do have transport, we do have housing, we do have electricity.
Okay.
So we are past the level of only having agricultural-based cooperative union, and it's upon this, by the way, that I would call upon the youth to think about joining the cooperative movement, because the cooperative idea focuses more on the growth of society and sustainability, rather than thinking of developing something and I will sell it on my phone. Okay. I have internet. But also, another opportunity that the Uganda Cooperative Alliance is aiming at utilizing as a blessing in the 21st century is also utilizing the technology space. Together with other companies, Uganda Cooperative Alliance is working towards establishing a single technology hub, a single model hub that will make it easy, that will avail information to the cooperators about the market prices, just like you people, like you Smart 24 are doing, like providing the information
of business.
Yes, of business around. But this will be more of providing prices both at local and international level, so that we can turn the clock around. Instead of having a cooperative negotiating from under the table, the cooperative will be now the one to negotiate, since they already know the price at both local and international level. Now, what has been happening is the businessman or the person who is interested in buying your produce or who is coming to your warehouse walks in with money and tells you, "Come, look here, this is the money that I have. I'm giving you 5,000 per kilogram." But when immediately after buying from you, and when he transits to making sales to the immediate or the next selling point, you realize that they are going to make unrealistic profits. So, because the cooperator is not aware of the price of certain goods, both at national and international level, they will find themselves selling at whichever price. Because this is the businessman, this is the money he has brought. So that's the money we should think about. And also, this technology hub will also show live locations or real-time locations of of the warehouses where the produce are stored and the amounts.
All right.
So this would be a blessing to a level that it would avail both the information, to close the information gap, but also make it instant for one to be able to tell that, for example, ACPC is having maybe 50 tons of coffee at this and this time. So for anybody who is interested in coffee, whether from the international community or from the international market, they would travel to Uganda when they are aware that what they're coming to buy is coffee, or what they're coming to buy is coffee, and it is located at, let's say, Bugisu Cooperative Union, or let's say is located at Bushika, or it's located in Masaka at Masaka Cooperative Union. So after closing the information gap, this will make it very easy. This will make it very easy for traders to deal with the cooperators, rather than now how it has been. You start negotiating from from under the table, but then the man will tell you, this is what I'm giving you, this is what is available, because you don't have information of the international market. You don't know how much the sales are at the time, so you may end up believing and thinking that what they're offering you is the best of what the international market is offering, which may be the exact opposite.
All right. Now, Crispus, your parting shots as we are winding out with our discussion here.
Well, I would really request, first of all, I appreciate government for the efforts to revive the bank, but also I would request the government to think about investing a little more in the education of the cooperative ideology in the country, but also to remind the cooperators, and also to bring greetings, cooperative greetings from Uganda Cooperative Alliance, and also sending cooperative greetings to the viewers out, so that let's impress the cooperative ideology for the betterment of society, not just of individuals, because the ideology rotates around society, not just individual businesses. Once we build the own bank, it would mean the society is self-sustainable, and also the banking institutions or even government itself would get some money would get loans from the cooperative bank, because there is a lot of money. There are millions of monies from the cooperatives, from the unions, from the Madi Okolos, from the Ushikas, from the other societies, that is being kept, that is being circulated in the commercial banks.
Okay.
Now, at the expense, and these cooperators, at the end of the month, they are paying a certain amount for keeping their money.
All right.
Why not that amount coming back to the cooperative bank?
Okay. And many thanks for joining us this morning. Indeed, the conversation has been very insightful. And this is gentleman Mobale Crispus Moke, who is the marketing and communications at the Uganda Cooperatives Alliance. He was taking us through the revival of the cooperative bank, and also the most important part on how it will enhance development and growth of the unions in the country. There are over 1,400 cooperative unions, and as well as the members that are attached to these particular unions. But also, just to remind you that the cooperative drive is not only best in the agricultural sector. Now it is growing and expanding to housing, water, electricity, and other sectors. That is it for our topic of discussion this morning. Stick around. I do have the SMB Insight coming up shortly after, and more of Business Updates.